You are listening to the Cattle Call Podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentech Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The Cattle Call Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cattle Call Podcast with Jim and Rocco from Zentech Consultants. I am Jim, your unapologetically silly host, and with me, as always, is my partner,
Rocco.
See, and Rocco is not silly. He has no joy in his life, and that's why I am forced to give him the engineering joke of the week. Okay, Rocco, you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
All right. Why did the transportation engineer quit his job?
I don't know. Why did he quit his job?
Oh, he just lost his drive. Yes. Getting worse every time. I love it. All right,
I thought he
folks.
hit the end of the road.
Oh, that's even better. I like that. We got a twofer today. Wait, we got to get another bum. Here we go. Tim gets one. There you go. Perfect.
Yay me.
Yay.
I'm helping.
All right, folks. So as promised, and you can hear, we told you guys a few episodes back, that Tim Yaris, who is the senior product manager for Civil 3D, he's back in the building today, and he wants to help us delve into the details of the Civil 3D 2026 release, and obviously audition for my job as well, which he can do better, no doubt.
Watch your back.
Tim, thank you, sir, for taking the time to be here again, man. Twice in the same month. That's brave, even for you.
You know, I'm a glutton for punishment. What can I say? And I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for a questionable joke too. So here I am.
Fair enough. Then you came to the right place, sir. All right. So before we jump into the Civil 3D details, let's take a minute again and just give Tim a chance to give us a quick update for I'm gonna try that in English for all the new listeners on his background. So. Tim, as we know, most everybody listening knows you at this point. You're on so often. But for the new listeners, can you describe your role over at Autodesk?
Yeah, you bet. So I guess maybe first off, I've been at Autodesk for coming up on 19 years now, so it's been quite a run. It's been over a variety of different roles, but all on the Civil 3D team since the beginning. So I've kind of grown. I've seen Civil 3D grow up over the many years, which has been a super, super cool thing to see. But as product manager, I'm responsible for the overall product roadmap for Civil 3D, as well as the Civil 3D success just as a whole, as a product as a whole, just making sure that it's the wheels are still on the bus and it's still moving faster and faster down the road. I also work with a whole bunch of other product managers on the Civil 3D just general leadership team. And what I do there is just balancing the needs of all of our existing customers, as well as making sure that we have their requirements taken into consideration, as well as requirements to ensure that we continue to capture new customers and then also just continue to evolve the product. We're really confident that Civil 3D has a very long life ahead of it, and we want to make sure that it continues to keep growing and just continue to be a modern product. So it's a bit about me.
There you go. Nice intro. All right, so I tell you, let's start with the overall concept, right? Or how Tim leads his team in developing the new tools and features for each of these releases, right? We've talked about the idea of kind of an overarching theme approach to each new version, and how a lot of the features developed for it are geared towards improving or satisfying that concept. And I'm just fascinated by the idea of centralizing each version around one main topic and then supporting that topic with each of the tools that you add. So Tim, was there a theme for this Civil 3D 2026 release?
Yeah, really, there was. And at a high level, we really wanted the 2026 release to really reinforce that Civil 3D is, if not should be, but is the go-to solution for designing large, complex civil infrastructure projects. And you guys know that just by their nature, infrastructure projects, they're large, they're complicated. If you think of like a manufacturing project, it might typically span like feet in its area, but an infrastructure project can span miles. So, if you're working on a project of that size, you really need to have confidence that the tool that you're using can handle the massive amount of data that you're having to put into it. So with every new release, we not only try to put in new capabilities that let you design new things in new ways, but we also try to make Civil 3D faster and give you ways to manage the large amounts of data that you have to plug into it on a typical project.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, I mean, I guess it's one thing, right, to kind of go out and set a theme to kind of help guide the development process year over year. But I have to imagine that it's an entirely different process to get the new updates to achieve that goal. I mean, when you're out there and you're dealing with just an absolute ton of code and different user input and corporate needs and even the potential limitations of your current technology itself, it can't be easy to get there. So, Tim, can you kind of tell us what did your guys do to actively reach the goals that you set for this release?
Yeah, and first and foremost, I mean, like I said, it's really all about improving how Civil 3D handles the data that goes into a complex project. First, we got a bunch of help from the beginning from our friends on the AutoCAD team who made some really significant performance improvements just at the platform level. Example of this is just drawing open times alone are, based on their statistics, they're 11 times faster than 2025, which is just crazy. So just opening a file that much faster in AutoCAD 2026. So core performance upgrades is just one of the many, many ways that Civil 3D really benefits from being built on top of AutoCAD and our great relationship that we have with that team. 1 second, sorry. A lot of other things that we did was really all in core Civil 3D performance, and this is particularly around how Civil 3D handles surfaces. We made some subtle changes that really might not be super exciting new tools, but they're money in the bank when it comes to project hours saved. Things like we eliminated the lag that was evident when you just moved your cursor across a surface that had contours and a lot of vertices. Like in previous versions, moving the cursor over the surface like that was kind of jerky, and now it's just super, super smooth. And then some less obvious things, like might sound silly, but like there's a status bar that appears when you're doing a surface analysis. And so we increased the performance of that status bar, so it's 3 times faster. So again, not the most exciting thing in the world, but it's faster, it's more performant, it gets out of your way more quickly. And then let's see, what else did we do? We also improved rebuild time for quarters that use a surface as a target, which is like every quarter ever.
Yep.
So yeah, so it's just things like that. And then on the workflow side, one of the improvements that we made that's a really big deal in my mind is the ability to add a boundary to a surface that you're dereffing into a host drawing. So let's say that you're part of a team that's working on like a 2 square mile project, and the team has an EG surface of the entire site, but you don't need the entire EG. You really only need the 1/4 mile square maybe that you're working on. And like referencing in the whole surface would just slow your drawing down for just no reason whatsoever. And it just gives you more data, more stuff to look at, and more stuff to kind of pan and zoom around when you really only need that one area that you need. So for in 2026, we let you define a closed polygon of the area that you want in your drawing, and then reference in only that portion of the EG that falls in that polygon. And it's not just hiding the EG outside the boundary, it's leaving it out completely. So really good stuff there. And if you change your mind about the area that you need and you want more of the EG, you can just resize the polygon and the reference updates. So it really helps you just keep your drawing small and keep yourself focused on what the area that you're working on.
Nice. Yeah. Like I said, small things like that. Again, maybe they don't sound as flashy, but when you're doing it, 50, 60, 70 times a day, every day, it adds up to such a huge benefit. So Rocco, do you kind of see the theme having an active impact on the client's level of interest with upgrades? I mean, if the focus that they do is like around like land development, say, right? Do more land development people jump in with both feet?
Yeah, I mean, you think about all the different software systems that we all use, and you get your annual summary of, hey, what's new and exciting, and we all skim down, and it's like, well, what's in here for me, So I do think that everybody does that at some level, but I noticed that with Civil 3D from year to year, it seems like they're really hitting a broader audience and really trying to bring improvements and enhancements to everybody, and that makes everybody happy.
There you go.
That's what we all want.
Absolutely. So, all right, cool. So I guess for me, looking at the 26, the most impressive tool in this new release, it's hands down, it's the model viewer. Its graphic display and smoothness it's just worlds above the old object viewer that we've all used for years now. And it really has some amazing new capabilities that we haven't seen before, that I think everybody listening really needs to dig into, right? I particularly love the set view feature, which kind of lets you find issues, right? Or look at something that doesn't look right in the rendered 3D model. And then you can just click on set view and you zoom to that area of the drawing so you can start making the fixes and changes you need. So Tim, how does the new model viewer fit into your overall story for 2026?
Yeah, this is a really cool new tool that really customers really seem to love. I said really a lot, but they really do.
Really? I didn't notice.
Really? Huh. What do you know? So, but anyway, I mean, just like you said, it's just an overall way better way to visualize, like, again, I'm talking about large projects. This is all about visualizing large projects. And so, and again, better performance in doing so. So, I mean, you mentioned the old object viewer. And so, I mean, just think of the workflow that you had to use for that. It was like okay, I pick my surface and my corridor and a couple pipes, and then I launch my object viewer. And it's like, oh, nope, I missed a couple pipes. So what do? You have to close the model view, close the object viewer, go back into Civil 3D, pick all the other pipes and stuff like that, go back into it, and then spin it around and, oh, I missed something else. Close it back out, blah, 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 blah. It was really picky and clicky, and then like when you're in it, it was kind of clunky to really pivot around things, and really, it was okay for certain cases, but it needed some love. So what we did with the model viewer is we kind of started with a clean slate, and we first thing we put on that clean slate was the new AutoCAD graphics engine. So super light years ahead of the old model viewer in terms of performance and level of detail that you could see in from the old object viewer. So we started there, super performant, much snappier. We also made it as a completely modeless window, so you don't have that whole thing of like the picking stuff in the drawing and then being locked out of the drawing once the window is open. The model viewer you can kind of keep open on screen, keep moving around and seeing what it is in your model. Like while you're working with it, you can still keep designing in plan, but keep the model viewer open while you're seeing all the changes that you make in plan being automatically reflected in model viewer. So super cool tool for just doing stuff like that. And it's a really great way to just have better control over what's shown too. Like I said, with with object viewer, you used to have to kind of pick and click inside the drawing and see what you're missing, and then like often miss things that you wanted to see in that 3D environment. But with the model viewer, we gave you this whole new environment where you have this overall tree of all the different objects that you have represented in model viewer, and you can really easily kind of toggle things on and off to kind of really get a really good sense of exactly what it is that you want to focus on for a given case. And again, it's just you're keeping it open on that drawing or in that like environment the whole time that you're working with your drawing. So it's just a super cool, just better workflow overall just for visualizing your model in 3D and getting a really much better sense of kind of how the different things are interacting with each other over the course of your model. So it's a great tool.
Yeah. It's impressive. It's impressive. And I love the modeless window. I've been, in my playing with it, all I do is just dock it on another screen. And then I just go into the drawing, and as I'm working, I can see my changes just happening in like a real world space, like I'm watching the actual job site. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the way that you expect it to work, right?
Yeah, and the way it says you just dream of it, and Tim makes it happen. He's like a genie. He just poof, it's there.
Making dreams come true.
There you go. All right. I think on that, we're going to take a quick break to let our sponsors get a word in. And when we get back, I want to dig a little bit deeper into the model viewer, right? So stand by, folks. We'll be back in just a minute with more of the Cattle Call Podcast. Hey, everybody. It's Jim and Rocco from Zentech Consultants. And we wanted to talk to you guys today about Managed CAD Services by Zentech Consultants. Look, every one of us out there in the design space, we're looking for that power person who can handle all of your standards and templates and file structures and answer all your CAD problems. But we run into two big issues. Number one, those folks don't come cheap, especially when you start adding in all of the taxes, insurances, and time off and stuff you got to add in. And then you've got to find someone that you can trust. And that's where Zentek Consultants come in, because I got to figure you guys are listening to us every week talk. You got to trust us. And we come in and handle all your CAD management needs for you with our managed CAD services contracts, an annual contract where we can be your CAD manager, doing all the things that you need done for an affordable rate with people whose technology acumen you know and trust. So Rocco, why don't you tell folks where they can find out more about managed CAD services and get the ball rolling?
Yep, you can hit up our website, zentechconsultants.net, and if you go under the services section, you'll be able to see the details. You could also give us a call, 866-824-4459, or drop us an email, sales@zentechconsultants.net.
There you go. All the CAD management help that you need but have not been able to get is available with Managed CAD Services by Zentek Consultants. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cattle Call Podcast. We're talking with Tim Yaris of Autodesk about the details, I guess, of the new Civil 3D 2026 release that everybody should be actively downloading after today's show, if you guys haven't already. And we left off in the first half talking about the new model viewer, right? And I want to get a little bit more detail about it from Tim while he's here. Tim, the model viewer, it's a great way to get a better visual context of corridors and surfaces, right? Which is what we expect, what we always did with Object Viewer. But what if I want to add more data, right? Like, Revit buildings and structures and things like that.
Well, we're in the research stages right now of kind of trying to tackle one of our biggest problems and one of our kind of most popular customer requests, which is just overall better interaction between Civil 3D and Revit. You've probably heard like rumblings about wanting to kind of actually use our products more efficiently. Yeah, we've heard that too. So we are working on that, but in the meantime, we've got options. So across Autodesk, we've been investing very heavily just in a whole bunch of our products in our Docs environment. And this is really all about giving extended teams the ability to not only share just project files, but also give model access to people, just non-design personas. So for cases like this, we recently released these new civil tools in ACC. And this is really about giving people the ability to see their civil model in the context of Revit models and other design data too. So you can see buildings and structures and their relationships to a road, and then do things like be able to check distances between those structures and the roads, cut a section plane along the road, and plenty of other cool things right from the cloud. So definitely stuff that we're working on.
Nice. All right. So, to my mind, tools like Model Viewer, they're huge steps in the right direction. Being able to keep like I was saying earlier, right, the 3D model open on a separate screen so you can see your changes that are being made to complex drawing components in real time. I think that's a tool that has been sorely needed for a long time. And I think it shows, that Tim's team is actively listening to clients' needs and working to make our daily workflow processes just simpler and easier. And I think what Tim was talking about, right, that cross connection between, the model and the design components, even across different design systems. And it's a complete game changer, right? And I'm kind of wondering where Autodesk can take that connection kind of moving forward. So Tim, what's kind of next for this model viewer concept, right? Are you planning on making more enhancements to it?
Yeah, absolutely. Based on the great feedback that we've gotten on this first version that's out there, we're definitely still building it out, and we'll probably be doing so for quite a while. Once customers got their hands on it, it was really cool to see all their just excitement about it. Not only excitement about what it can do right now in 2026, but also how much potential they saw in it for the future. So some of the next things that we're working on right now are direct results of that feedback. So things like being able to visualize surface contours in that model viewer area, and then also be able to do things like set levels of transparency to surfaces and to corridors, or those are some of the next big ticket items that we have in the works. But we definitely have a longer list of enhancements for the future, and I'm sure that customers are going to keep those ideas coming as they continue to kind of dig into that tool over time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rocco, from your side, how important are tools like Model Viewer to our clients, right? Do you find that people are actively looking for, easier 3D BIM type interfaces to simplify their infrastructure workflows?
Yeah, they definitely are. I mean, it's a balance because the industry's still thankfully very busy, and there's worker shortages, but they're looking for ways to be more productive, right? And so big improvements are key, but it's a balance between do you just jump on those big improvements, and are they ready to go out of the gate, or do you keep going with what you're doing? And if you jump in and they're not ready to go, then you're kind of wasting time in the middle of a project. So, but like I was saying before, Autodesk is really putting out some solid improvements. And really listens to customer feedback, and that's important. It's important that you guys give the folks at Tim and Autodesk that feedback, because it helps to improve the products.
It really does, and we listen to it, we appreciate it, and we can't do everything that like every customer wants us to do, but it really does take a huge. It's a big deal for us, and we definitely take it into account when we're like deciding what it is that we're going to build into the product. So yeah, we're all ears, folks.
There you go. All right, so while we've been kind of sitting here geeking out, I guess mainly me geeking out over the Model Viewer, it is not the only cool new update to Civil 3D. In this release, right? There have been just a bunch of performance enhancements, of course, like Tim was saying, but there's also a bunch of new tools for drainage and surfaces that I think people are really going to like, right? And you can, as always, right? You guys can go to the Autodesk website and get a full list, and they have a ton of YouTube videos you can go look at. But I like having Tim here because he gives us the highlights. So Tim, what else did you add to the 2026 release that everybody should know about?
Yeah, so this is this is kind of interesting. I mean, there's, like you said, there's a ton of stuff on there that you can kind of do some research and check the release notes and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, overall, we put a lot of stuff into the product, and we know it takes time for people to find all that really cool new stuff. I mean, especially for folks who have to skip a version or two. That's not uncommon, where you have to, like, people just adopt even number versions or odd year versions or that kind of thing. So it takes some time to really figure out what's in there and get your hands into it. So to that end, I mean, Civil 3D 2026, we implemented this new tool called My Insights, which is being rolled out to many, many, many Autodesk products across the board. And the idea with this tool is that it learns from how you use the product, and it makes suggestions for how you might use it more effectively. One example, it might see that you're modeling a corridor with a widening and breaking it into a bunch of different regions and using different assemblies and using line work as targets and stuff like that. So in that kind of case, My Insights might notice that that's the workflow that you're using and say, hey, maybe instead of doing that whole complicated workflow, maybe try using the newer corridor transitions functionality that we released a few years ago. And so that's just one example. It's just a kind of a different workflow, different way of looking at it that customers might not know about. And so you can kind of take those types of insights, and you can have a whole interaction where you can give it like a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and that really helps it to improve what it presents to you based on the different things that you like. And so there are several different ways that you can kind of get an overall view of what your insights, like things that you have liked or not liked. And so there's things like you can see them either in email summary on your Autodesk account, or even on that start page on the Civil 3D homepage. So it's a pretty cool new tool to really kind of get yourself familiar with things that you might not necessarily have the time otherwise to kind of dig through YouTube or release notes and stuff like that to learn while you're actually in the product.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good use of machine learning, right? Where it's actively making jobs, potentially more efficient, easier to use, and then you get I got to imagine that from a management standpoint, the ability to see like what your people are doing, which things they're learning from, which things they're benefiting from, and that has got to be huge.
Exactly. Yeah. And like some of the other things that we are starting to look into for the future is being able to, like, if you're part of an organization that like you've created a whole bunch of custom tools for your org and you want to make sure that your end users are using a particular workflow or a particular tool that you have built, building in the functionality to be able to kind of recommend those types of workflows to make sure that you're enforcing like your customer, your company's workflows. So it's a really cool tool. It's got a lot of potential to it too for enhancements in the future.
Yeah, right off the bat, I can think of a dozen of my clients who would just jump right at that last statement, just be like, yes, that's what we need. Teach them how to do it our way. Show them where our stuff is. Yeah, that's great. All right, I tell you what, as always, right? We always give our guests the chance to talk about what's next for their product and to add in anything else they think we should know about that I forgot to ask. All right, so Tim, what's next? What do you have in the works that are going to dazzle Civil 3D users in the next release?
Well, in the last few times I've been on here, I may have mentioned once or twice we have a public roadmap. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
just a few times,
probably once or twice. Yeah. My name is Tim, Public Roadmap. Yeah. But anyway, so highly, highly, highly recommend that folks Google that and check it out, because now that the new version of Civil 3D is out, we updated the Public Roadmap to reflect. We moved all the stuff that we have in 2026. That's kind of been cleared off of there. And we updated the rest of it to reflect what we have under consideration for future versions. So stuff that we have in progress and all that kind of good stuff. So some examples of what you might see up there are we have some new entries up there for things like more efficient ways of working with vertical geometry. We have a card up there for like a better workflow for offsetting a surface, like an offset normal to a surface, and plenty more other things that we have up there. Most of which are generated by customer ideas. So one thing that you'll see up there that should make longtime users pretty excited is a focus on feature line performance and stability.
Hey.
Yeah, see?
That gets my attention.
Oh, finally. So, we've gotten feedback from folks like you, Jim, and plenty of other people. And it's been a frustration for customers for a while, and we're able at this point to nail down some really creative ways to improve feature lines and just how they work in the overall product. So you'll see up on the public roadmap, things like that. We're looking at kind of a good mix of changing the way people work, and then things like the feature line things, just making bread and butter workflows better and just generally more resilient.
Perfect. That's great stuff. All right, folks, and with that, I think we'll let Tim get back to building those awesome new tools that he's working on for the next Civil 3D update. But before we go, I just want to say thank you one more time, Tim. You are always a pleasure to have on, sir. We appreciate it.
Hey, I definitely appreciate the time you guys having me on.
All right.
Thank you, Tim.
And with that, we're going to get out of here, and we'll catch you next time on the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody, today's Cattle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentech Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentech Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentech strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentech?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentechconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentechconsultants.net, or you can even call us 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from you all.